everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Gen's Liberated Panda. We have a very special guest today on our show. You may remember her from the award-winning documentary First, directed by director Yi Chen.
And I would like to introduce another true American. Sue Gouge was a congressional candidate. She fled communist China. She has come to America legally, and she's an entrepreneur and has her own business at this point. She is a firebrand for conservatives, and I am so proud to introduce Ms. Sue Gouge.
Thank you. Hello. I love to watch American flag fly. You know what that means? Land of the free. Because of what? Because of the brave. I live in the life. I know what no freedom of speech is what all about. I know what big government is all about. Our American flag will fly strong and fly on forever. Make America great again. Thank you very much. God bless America. Thank you.
Yi Chen. Joining us today is the one and only Sue Gouge. Hello, Sue, and thank you for being with us on Liberated Panda today.
Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for inviting me over.
No, the honor is all ours. So for those of you that don't know Sue, she is a Chinese American woman who ran for Congress in hopes of representing North Carolina's 4th district during the 2016 election. I believe she won her primaries, but it was a heavily Democratic district. Am I correct? And yes, and that's probably why the Democrat won in that race. So I think you won. I think you ran a very great campaign, and I'm very excited to have Sue with us here today, because the thing I love about you, Sue, is your courage and your tenacity to run for politics, which is something perhaps not a lot of Chinese Americans or Asian Americans do in this country, as of right now, which is, and it's because like our parents don't encourage us to get into politics, and it's not like something that is like in the forefront of like as a career option. In fact, according to studies, Asian Americans are not very politically active compared to other groups. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all about the details that go into running for office from somebody that has run a successful primary campaign like you. But before we get to all of that, would you please tell us a bit about your background, where you were born, your childhood, and how you got here today?
Okay, Angel, thank you for the introduction. I was born and raised in a remote mountain, kind of like off-grid, without running water, electricity. A very small community, kind of like middle of nowhere. We have to go to mountains, cut down woods as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old girl, go chop down some woods, bring home to cook dinner. And we have to walk to carry water to home so we can have water for cooking and wash laundries and put it on shoulder. It was all labor war, and that's how I grew up. When I grew up, I loved reading. For some reason, I found myself lost in books. I found myself lost in knowledge. I just like a sponge and sucking every book I can lay my hands on. So basically, that's how I grew up. For those who grew up in modern amenity, you turn on a switch, the electric light bulbs come on, and you turn on a switch, your stove comes on, you can cook. We have to go through a tremendous effort just to be able to read at night. We only got 2 like oil lamps in the household, and there's no electricity. And you have to actually starting a fire in order to cook the dinner. So, so modern day is already cut out all the hard labor work. But despite all that, I found this part of experience really build my characters, because no matter what kind of obstacles, you're always thinking about the end result. You just walk, keep cool, keep walking. Yeah. You might fall down. It's okay. Get up. Just focus on your goal. Keep going. So this is really interesting, and that's basically my childhood background.
No, I love your spirit, and I love your fighting spirit and your passion from the get-go. And I agree with you. Reading is definitely the like pathway to something bigger. So I guess you eventually ended up in America, and you I know that you had a rough start. You went to a lot of banks. They turned you down. They didn't want to loan you money. Very typical, right? Same thing happened with my family. And but you still managed to start a very successful business. What motivated you to become an entrepreneur? And how did you even get to that step without the help of banks and everything like that?
Well, for a very long time, I was a software engineer. I make good amount of money, 6-figure money in a small area, and I have a comfortable life. But I just have some big dream of myself. I'm thinking like I'm living in America. I came from the place, I have to go gathering wood to cook dinner. And I flip a switch. Now I flip a switch, I got electricity. I don't need to dig into a trash can to get those wax to make a candle at night to read, so I can start it. I said, like, with this amenity, I'm just settling, have a job, a 6-figure job. So like, I feel like there's something more calling to my natures. And come to America, we often heard about the word liberty. The liberty, there's no equivalent translation in Chinese, so it's very difficult to understand the word liberty, because it is kind of like a foreign import words, and democracy also is very difficult to understand. For example, for a very long time, when I was working for someone else, for a very long time, I didn't understand the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, why it was First Amendment so important, because that's not how we grew up. We grew up, the teacher said, listen to, do what I say.
Yeah.
And at home, mom said, do what I say.
Right.
And no adult really cared about listen to kids, our voice. So we didn't know about free speech is so important, because we learned to keep our mouth shut. It's, in some part of the Asian culture. And also Second Amendment is like right to bear arms. Like, what's that? Why do you want that gun? It looks so scary. Why you want that thing? So for a long time, I didn't understand this very important concept. And liberty, basically, for us in Asian, say, well, you just do whatever you want. Or what's liberty really for? To come back to your question about entrepreneur, yes, I was a successful software engineer. I spoke in many international conferences, taught all the tech gurus how to get into the latest and greatest technology, and it was all wonderful, But I still think I can do more. So the things to more is I always dreaming about I'm the CEO of a big tech company, that kind of things, but it didn't work out. But I have the strong desire for financial independence. So I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I believe every single one read that. And it's like, oh my God, why I didn't read this book earlier? And so that basically inspired me to achieve financial independence. Financial independence, there wasn't even a vocabulary in my book, but after I read the book, all my mind is doing financial independence. And, it just keep hitting. It's like, well, what do I do with it? Because the Rich Dad Poor Dad was talking about real estate. And then that's how I get started with it. So, maybe that's my vehicle to get started. So I was lucky to get into real estate after the financial meltdown after 2008. I was still having my 6-figure software engineer job. And with the full-time job, I just so into real estate. I come after the war, I would just spend hours and hours. Basically, as soon as I finished dinner, I was in front of the computer, searching real estate, read everything. and search for real estate and drive to go see real estate and just get myself out there. And then when you see these things, your dreams starting getting bigger and more concrete, no longer a concept or abstract. Financial independence starting to become more real. And it seems like, well, I haven't yet reached it, but I kind of feel like I see a blurry road can leading to the road. So I just keep digging. So I found my first commercial properties. And it was so exciting. I got it under the contract. I think I got it in a great deal. And then I went to get a bank loan. And back then, let me see, 2010 or something, it was after financial meltdown. And all the banks shut down investment property finance. You virtually hit a wall. A bank's probably on the low side. You have no idea how many. I just Google search how many banks local, everybody. I just call them. Everybody say, no, we don't expect this one. I said, like, what can I do? I think one of the loan officer kind of moved because he saw me so tenacity. He's like, you know what? Do you have any equity in your house? I said, like, I said, like, oh yes, I can get that. So I went to refinance, get some equity, so I can pay cash for the property. And then the loan officer told me, say, you can pay cash, and then we can and find a tenant in there, because they don't finance an empty building. And if you can find a tenant, a long tenant, a good tenant over there, we can finance you, and like 85% or whatever the percent, then you can get money. I said, oh, great. So I signed a contract, and I basically asked for two months closing, and then they kind enough to give me the key. So I starting to show people advertising the building, say what this building can be, and then I starting to show the buildings. And then I finally land the tenant, oh, I'm going to closing that day. After closing, then you're going to come in. It's like, okay. So everything went well. I successfully closed the building, and then the tenant moving in, it's a boom. I got a lease, so I can go get a finance. So I got my money back, 85% money back, so I can do the next one. Keep rolling. So basically, how I get started. Without much of a saving, I have to tap into my home equity and to get a second loan to get the building to start. And then it just, once you get a first one successful, then you just keep repeating the step, and then it just becoming addiction.
Yeah.
It just keep growing.
Yes. So I actually wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I find it so interesting, because our lives kind of parallel in that sense. The whole concept of creating wealth. So my family and I don't know if it's an Asian thing, but we love the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. We're like obsessed with it when it came out, and we all have our own copies. And then, one of the concepts which you very articulately spoke about is to take equity out of your home or whatever assets you have, leverage that, get a loan, buy another like income producing asset, right? And then use that, leverage that out, and then continue, like you said, like a snowball effect, and go on and on. And I'm very much a believer of that, as well as creating wealth. And I think that's something, interesting that we could share with our viewers, even though it's not directly related to the topic on hand, because I'm sure a lot of people would be interested, right? Because people work corporate 9 to 5, right? And I've worked corporate 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or 9 to 12 or whatever it is, right? And you get a salary, you get a W-2, and it's very difficult to build wealth that way. So I think it's very intriguing that you were able to maneuver all of that by yourself. So I think that's very savvy of you. So kudos to you for that. And I guess that kind of like parlays into the whole politics, right? Because from my understanding, you were initially not interested in politics, like many Asian Americans, right? Or like first generation immigrants. So you weren't interested at all. So what was the turnaround? What motivated you to become interested all of a sudden?
Well, Angie, thank you for asking this question. It's very important. I would like to share two turning points. one turning point is during my entrepreneur as real estate. There's one thing, I live in America for, at the time, probably like 14 years or 16 years. One thing it never came to my mind is, what's my relationship with the government? I rarely thought about, that's why a lot of Asians do not thinking about politics. So after I become an entrepreneur, this starting to become very crystal clear. Taxes, regulation, because a lot of banks turn down and say, oh, the federal government have a new regulation coming down, we have to apply, and the new regulation, they're changing every month, and we have hardly can keep up with it. And then I starting to expose that, well, the government can have such a huge impact in our life. And back then, a lot of community banks closed, shut down. So only the big banks survive. They are bailed out by the taxpayer money. A lot of community banks, out of business. I wasn't very clear about what they will mean to the economy back then, but I do know the government can maneuver, put something, can impact people's life, break or make it big time. So a lot of times we say, well, work hard, you will get somewhere. Well, guess what? If the government slap your face, you hardly can get up. Whenever the government say, because I grew up in China, during the communist time, there was no free economy. Everything it was on kind of like a dispute on the quota basis. Okay, like my parents both work full time. We couldn't even afford to buy whatever rice we wanted to eat, and each household or each person only entitled to a certain amount of rice. I'm not saying we have a lot of money. Nobody have extra money, but the government said, okay, you have a 3-person household. Every person have 30 pounds of rice a month. You have to live with that. So there was
like the portion tickets, right?
Huh?
The tickets, like the portion tickets.
Yeah. You even know the portion tickets.
I remember. Yeah.
The portion ticket, it goes everywhere, not just for the rice, sometimes for the sugar, sometimes for salt, sometimes for the fabric. The government control all the economies. And so we never exposed to free economy. So we kind of like bring that into America, just like, okay, there's a invisible authority over there and put out this infrastructure. We just need to tap ourselves in, don't question anything, just do exactly and keep your mouth shut and just leave everybody else. If we got little leisure time, let's eat some Chinese food, and that was the height of our life. So at some point, I'm starting to question this whole system, and because get into real estate, and then you get to see who is the gurus in the real estate, and then you see those people, they are so confident, and it looks like I never forgot about. I heard from one of the gurus say, "You can drop me to any town in America with $200 in my pocket and a cell phone, and I will become a millionaire in a year." And I was like, wow, that is something. He's so confident he can drop into any town with $200 in his pocket. He will become a millionaire. First, you need to have very strong mental strength, because we have a lot of obstacles in life. When you see obstacle, is it the obstacle beat you down or you beat the obstacle? It's like who beats who is determined, are you able to overcome these hardships? And I think this person just, if they brag about it or something, but he appeared to have a superior mental strength to face extreme hardship. And I didn't think I had at the time, but that was stuck in my mind. And if somebody drop you in any town with $200 and a cell phone and a computer, what he said, and a computer, he will become a millionaire in a year. Anywhere in the United States, a small town. After becoming an entrepreneur, starting to question what is citizen and government's relationship, how did they govern? So when people are talking about the government policy, that is starting to make sense. It used to be just like go, pass it out. It didn't stick in the hand. And that's the turning point from entrepreneur standpoint to see how government operate. And then the other turning point is 2014, I went back to China. After my both parents already passed away. My dad passed away more than 20 years ago. My mom passed away 2014, so I was the only child. And so I didn't have a family in China, but I went back to my father's childhood village. I discovered something very disturbing, and that basically changed my life. A quick turning point. The people told me my grandfather, which is my father's father, was a military leader against a communist movement, and they lost the civil war. The people lost the civil war. They moved to Taiwan, and so they lost the civil war, and my grandfather got executed, and all the assets got confiscated. Not just my family; it was the entire China. Millions family, but that was not in our history book, or they stated in very positive tone. They stated in very positive way, like that was a good thing. And my father and my mother never mentioned this part of history to me. Never, ever. They never talk about their childhood. They never mentioned about how my grandparents passed away. They never mentioned how they went from their hometown to the remote off-grid in the middle of nowhere. In the mountain, they never said about that. And so that was really a light bulb, a lightning strike in my head. I say, well, I do know government, because in China, government control the media, control the education, control everything you read and what you hear. And but I didn't know, even to the point inside your family. Your family member don't even tell you the real history, out of fear. And then from that moment, I started to understand, all of a sudden, I understand the importance of free speech. Without free speech, we don't even know the truth. And truth cannot even turn out. I said, okay, this is very scary, because 1.4 billion in a country, nobody talk about it, just like it never happened. And or talking from the angle is totally different from the reality. And inside the family, out of fear, they don't even pass down their real history. So after 1 or 2 generations, the real history could be completely disappear, and nobody even know that happened. If nobody know that it happened, and if it's going to happen in America, we didn't even know, because we wouldn't know the warning sign, we wouldn't know anything. We would just repeat the history over again. And for the people pay a lot of blood. So basically come back to America from that trip. And I started to become so interested in politics. And after, as an entrepreneur, how the government's role in the business world, and then in the civic side with the free speech. And then I started to understand Second Amendment, and Second Amendment, not just people owning gun or love to collecting gun. It was the spirit of personal liberty and the right to defend yourself against tyranny. Kind of like my family got prosecuted, and many millions Chinese family got their land confiscated, because then turned into a state-owned, and our state became the largest landlord. Everybody just living off their land, and nobody entitled to private ownership. And grew up in that way. We didn't think there's anything wrong with it, because we get used to it. And coming to America, it take a little while to get used to those capitalism. And but once I found it, it's like, you know what, this is our nature, because everyone is very unique and independent and personal liberty is very important. What make a man, a free man, different than a slave? A free man can have a free choice. A free choice to sell their labor on the market, and have a private properties, have free speech, and slave does not have any of that. So we basically coming from we was enslaved by the emperor or by whatever the government is. Income America is a free, and then I'm starting to, once I understand the importance of free speech and I started to read Constitution. I was too ashamed. I probably read Constitution a long time ago, but I just fly through it and stay. And then after I have this experience starting to read Constitution, I guess like, oh, wow, I live in America for so long, I didn't even read these things carefully. And thank God there's a lot of people understand this and they defend this. And that's why I come here. I don't need to worry about using those voucher or something, those tickets, like you say, the tickets. And because of someone else defending this system, and I am benefit from these systems. And I even didn't put too much thought about someone else maintain this system so we can enjoy it. And say, you know what, maybe it's my time also to contribute in myself after, I'm successful enough, but at least I achieve certain point of financial independence. I can free myself up, starting to give back to the community. The community I got so much from. And that's why I started to get into politics, to listen what's Democrat. I have a Democrat friend. Before I joined Republican, all my friends were Democrats. I virtually didn't know anyone about the Republicans. And my Democrat friend was fine. We good friends and we have a good time. And so 2014, I went to 2 congressional fundraisers. The Democrat congressional candidate is my next door neighbor. We are very good friends. We have a Thanksgiving dinner together, and she's running for Congress. And she's the Democrat nominee against a Republican. So, you know what? I love her, but I need to check out what the other guy doing. So I went to check out the other guy doing, and it was totally different group of people. The Republican fundraiser event, the men's dressed like tuxedo, very dressed up, very sharp, and they're not as cozy up. They're not as casual. They're not as cozy up. And the Democrat people are more cozy up, almost like relax on your backyard that time. And the Republicans are more uptight and more stiff. And you're talking about which was comfortable, I can tell you is Democrat Party is more comfortable.
Right, of course.
But I think I'm very curious. I said, like, maybe this the part. If who I want to hang out with a beer, yes, I like to hang out with a Democrat. The Republican is too stiff to my taste. But I started to try to understand this group of people I didn't grow up with, I didn't never expose myself with, and I didn't know anything about them. What do they believe? Why did they form this party? What was the deal? And then Wake County starting to have their county convention, and then they say what they're stating for: personal liberty, community, family value, hold government accountable. It's like, well, they all sound great, because after I have the entrepreneurial experience, when I heard people say hold government accountable, I say sounds great. In managing balancing the budget, it's like, yes, entrepreneur, you have to balance the budget. You don't balance the budget, spend more money than you can make. Well, guess what? You're going to fight bankrupt. You're going to fail. Yeah. And so everything sounds wonderful to me. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to check them out. And I was joining their Wake County precinct convention. So I went over there, and I didn't know anybody. And I feel like I was like 1,000 people's convention. I probably was the only Asian or two.
I'm not surprised.
So I was kind of clueless and said, oh, people ask me, where do you live? And they said, oh, this is your precinct, one over there. And then I went over there, and then people say, well, we need to elect a precinct chair, and who wants to run for that? I said, nobody run for that. So I said, what? What do I mean? And everybody said, okay. I said, like, shoot, I need to go back home to Google what's precinct chair doing. I already took the job, even know what the job is functioning. I said, like, it doesn't matter.
You just volunteered without knowing.
Well, I think whatever these people can do, I can do it. Basically, that's what I think. It's like, so I went back home, Googled what's precinct even mean, and then what's precinct chair even mean. I said, like, and then I said, oh wow, this is a pretty profound job. It's not kind of like a grassroots thing. And so I was kind of into it, and then I started to very active. Then I started to know a lot of Republican people, and I learned a lot from them. They're very courageous, and they are very for personal liberties and protect private properties. This is something I didn't have when I was grew up. It was not my comfort people. And then starting to understand what's the government role, and it's starting to. I was so so thirsty to talk to people about politics. I was just like a sponge, just want to learn, talk, and listen, and starting to get my way into a politics. And then people see I sign up every political event that comes to my mailbox. If there was none, I'm going to find one.
Well, so
And-
where would you go find them?
Oh, well, it's very easy actually. Because the party will have first, which county you're living in, they're going to have a county party, okay? Under the county, they will have district, and then have a district chair, and then under district, they'll have precinct, and they all have that. And the the precinct convention and the county convention are once a year. But a lot of those political party, they have a monthly luncheon. And for example, like Republican woman, and our county have like 3 or 4 Republican women group. You can go join them and starting to learn them. And then, political party virtually is, all the events endless. Depend, you look young and you have all the energy. You virtually can burn yourself out to attend all those events by talking to people. There's so many of them out there. And political party longer for. They are thirsty for young people to join in. They didn't know how to reach out to young people. So if you're showing up, they will welcome you with open arms. Oh, thank God, please come in. But a lot of these people, they are not tech savvy. They don't know how to find you. So if you come to find them, and they will be very happy. They will fill you in. They will welcome you in. And after you get along with these people, you basically sum them up. Those good people. They love America. They love to build a beautiful community, and they love rules and laws. They love justice. And before meal, we always pledge the religion with liberty and justice for all. Actually, you say it every single time, rehearse, it become part of your thinking. And a lot of people have the wrong perception about GOP, like it's more white people's party, but actually it's not true. And the surface, it looks true, but a lot of people inherit this type of mentality, mostly, yes, in white. And I would love minority embrace this. Don't just call ourselves minority, call ourselves American,
I completely agree with that. Right.
When I showing up, I rarely call myself Asian American. I just feel, hey, I'm Sue, and I'm American. And I'm not that fan of identity politics. I said, why you separate us by skin color? We are just American. And I
love that.
Yeah, when you don't have that prejudice on race on other people, actually you make people more easier to approaching you. But if you wear this hat, I'm Asian, you are white, then you put an invisible wall between you and the other person. So when you reach people from hearts, like people to people, not like Asian to white or Asian to black, just forget about the skin color.
Right.
Just talking about get into under the skin color, go to the content of the character, then you have a more deeper discussion. And I have great fun. And then some people see I was so active in the political party, and they say, hey, are you going to run for some office? Actually, they never came across my mind. But when somebody asked me today, I said, yes. Actually, I even didn't know. They would never cross my mind. But when the vice president said, hey, maybe you should run for office. I said, okay.
Why not?
Why not? And so I went back home and Google search what kind of position I can run. And I saw it through and so like, you know what? I like that. And because why I picked US Congress? Because I was thinking, after I talked to a lot of people, I started to understand the politics a little more. And at local level, our parents would tell us, study hard, work hard, you will get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of us living through Iraq War, right? I don't know, you have memory on Iraq War?
Yeah.
On Iraq War spent $6 trillion. $6 trillion. It put whatever divided by that, whatever the money divided by per capita, it put the debt into every American. So no matter how far you work, somebody already slammed the debt into your head. Who made that decision? Federal government. So no matter how hard you work, that already smash you down a little bit. And then you have state have debt, and then your city, municipal have debt.
Yeah.
And then your family had debt. Oh my God, we drawn
So
like
many
that.
layers, right? So many
There
layers.
was so many like that. It's like when we born, I wasn't born here, but every American born was here. It's like, hello, federal debt, $30,000 a piece, and your state debt, this much a piece, your city tax, your county debt. It was, and then on top of your family's debt. Everybody have credit card, have car loan, have mortgage, and then have a student loan.
Other expenses.
I like, my goodness, we talking about financial independence ourselves. How about the country? And so I started to look in the federal budget, so like $3.1 trillion. That was more than Germany's entire country's GDP. And then after I read the Constitution said, oh, the federal government only for common defense and immigration. And now the federal government was expend so much, suck in so much money, and with this bureaucrat and get us into a lot of war and a lot of people dying and whatever the cost. I personally don't believe too much whatever to get us into war. So I started thinking about, well, American people really got screwed, and the federal government can kind of another tyrannies suck a lot of money from the people and spend in whatever something don't benefit from America for America. And so I'm thinking, and also a lot of young people don't have jobs, and that's why they're starting to get into socialists. Why they love socialists? Because they don't think they can make it better than what government provided. If they have an opportunity like what I have, they wouldn't think about socialists. They would be so busy about thinking about making money, how to be successful in their career. They wouldn't thinking about socialists. So we have outsourcing a lot of jobs to other country, and I didn't even know. I didn't tell you in this one. Sorry. I didn't know we outsourcing so many jobs. So when young people coming in, they didn't have the opportunity as their parent. We have to admit that, but no one was admitted. Then I found out the Democrat used to protect American workers' right. And they were the champion, protect American was right. And the Republican Party was more pushy for the war and outsourcing the jobs. And then, but the Republicans are standing for personal liberty and family values, and then the small government. And I also like that. But so I starting to get into parties like, you know what? I like this part of a Republican. I also like this part of a Democrat. I don't like them alone. Neither do I like this alone. And but I pick this thing up, pick that one up, mash together, and looks good in that picture. And then Donald Trump come along, and Donald Trump starting to, and I was perfectly in line with his vision. For example, like all the things he's standing for, the one he picked from Republican and Democrat, he picked the one protect Americans' work and put Americans first, because we've been putting America's global corporation first, put American last, and need to build infrastructures, because if you go to China, you look at the infrastructures like, wow, that looks amazing, and come back to America, looks like a third world country, our infrastructure. And so we spend $6 trillion to fight a war, but we don't even have money to repair our roads and bridges. And every election, the government have to raise a bond to borrow money to even do this. And I think there's something wrong on spending the money, spending taxpayer money wisely. And so the jobs and the infrastructure, these two topics, Trump was borrowing from Democrat. Actually, I was thinking exactly the same thing. And so he's starting to champion, become like, okay, we are for the working American, because without a very strong middle classes, the country is not going to be very stable. If you have extremely rich and extremely poor, and it's not a happy place to be. You know, the poor people will be very desperate. The rich people do not feel secure because people hate them.
Right.
The most happy country place is everybody living their dream. Everybody have money, and people pretty much can do what they natural talent to do, you know,
Right.
instead of a working slave, but they can do a natural talent. The singer can sing, the programmer can program, the entrepreneur can do their thing. Everybody have equal right and justice environment. So that resonate with me, and besides somebody encouraging me to run, and also Trump was inspire me because he's entrepreneur. He's a very successful businessman. Yes, he has a lot of fault, but the thing is, what he's standing for, bring American jobs back, because I experienced that when I was in China. When China was on the other side of the trade deal, and they were the beneficiary from the free trade, and so they are the one receive the trade surplus, and so they have a lot of jobs, and that's how I grew up, and there was unlimited amount of jobs. But in America, on the losing side, and on the other side of the trade deal, so America have a trade deficit. When you have trade deficit, you suck a lot of jobs out. When you don't have a job, you don't have income. And kind of like young people, when you graduate from college, your mom said, go get a job. They don't say, oh, be a good consumer, protect your consumers' rights. They're asking you to go get a job, because you have to be able to make an income before you become a consumer. So I think it was reverse. At the time, we focus on American consumers, right? We import things from everywhere, but people losing jobs. When you don't have a job, your income is not going to sustain. That's why you see so many small towns become very distressed. You know, the housing market going down, the community completely distressed, and people losing jobs, and men lose the power to provide for the family, and the wife divorced them, the family got broken up, then the man turned themselves in drugs and alcohols. The whole community collapsed into a very dark hole. And I think the only thing to reverse this is we need to have a fair deal on the trade to put American first. So our young people of whatever age, and they can enjoy this good market, we need to put them first. So that.
Wait, so can I interject for 1 second?
Sure.
So everything that you said is because I'm a registered Republican too, and I've been a lifelong Republican my whole life. You know, I have friends on the left, friends on the right. So everything that you said to me, you know, the small government, right? Like not a lot of regulations. I'm a business owner as well, so I know there's like OSHA, there's a Department of Labor laws, there's just all this, you know, excessive regulations and everything. So that's what gravitates me towards the Republican, right? But then, yeah, so that in theory, right, that Republican philosophy, ideology is very attractive, but in practice, in the past 4 years that I've seen, for instance, it just it has not been done. And I'll just give you a few examples. For instance, you mentioned young people not having jobs, right? And I agree with that. Like, you know, the jobs are outsourced to China and outsourced to third world countries. If you ever seen that movie American Factory, it was last. No. It was a last year's Oscar documentary winner with a Chinese factory owner coming to Ohio, and no, you didn't see that movie.
No, I will check it out.
No, okay. So basically, what happened was a Chinese manufacturer he moved to Ohio. He created all these like new jobs, right? But then what happened was he couldn't get the Americans to work at the level that his Chinese workers in China could work. So number one, he ended up losing money, and they had to close that factory. And then when they brought the American management team to China to learn from them, they saw all these unsafe conditions, very unsafe conditions. You have like people living in basically campus, right? The work campus, and they only get to see their family two times a year, right? Like their children 2 times a year, whatever. So they were showing that like discrepancy, and they were saying that basically they were showing basically that even if you bring manufacturing jobs back to America, because of the regulations, because of the standard of living, because of the 要求, right? Like, you know, 美国人的要求很高. It was very difficult for them to successfully bring that manufacturing job back. And then in fact, during this COVID, you know, this COVID pandemic, I just read last week that all these like employers, they have empty jobs that Americans don't want to do because Trump cut off, you know, immigrants coming in to take their jobs because he wants to reserve it for the Americans, which is very, you know, beautiful in theory. But in practice, what happened is these, you know, these employers of these jobs that the Americans don't want, they're all left unfulfilled, and the immigrants aren't there to like fulfill them. So what, how do you reconcile like the Republican ideology with the practical reality of what's happened?
Angel, you brought up a very good point, because this really the reality between the theory and the reality right now. Well, to understand this topic, we have to dial back 40 years ago. 40 years ago, before Americans signed into NAFTA and bringing China into WTO, the jobs stay in here. When the jobs stay in here, there's no cheap Chinese product or cheap foreign product. American have prosperity, young people grow up, can have a jobs, and you know they can go to manufacture or go into. We have the full spectrum of the economy. We have the full, you know, almost the full supply chain of the economy. So during that time, but the federal government is coming in, smashing down to encourage outsourcing the manufacturing job. Because the discrepancy on the life standard across the globe, like when I was in China, I was, you know, my first job I think is making 300, 400 yen, which is equivalent to $50 a month, $50 a month. And I worked like a slave because I was so appreciative of having the opportunity. It was much better than me living in the remote country. I have to carry water into a house to dump into a little pot, and I have to get on a firewood. So making $50 a month, oh my God, this is a dream job. But American was like, how can you live with $50? I'm using my lunch money, right? So once you break through a good economy, once you by force take out some chunk of it by force, okay, then that's what I say. The people losing jobs, and that they don't just losing job, they lose the golden opportunity to have a fulfillment career. Okay, they didn't have time to build a career. That boom, a full stop. Usually, when our economy, when there was before the globalization, even with the advance of the technology, for example, like it used to be we're riding horses, then we have the horse carriage, and then when the car come along, the horse carriage industry fading out, right? So the jobs still floating inside the country, inside the community. But if you took some part of it out by force, for example, like you have a car, you completely took the industry out. We didn't take one or two industry. We basically got out majority of the manufacturing base into America. So you lose the human capital, and when people don't do jobs, they lost the work ethic. They get into alcohol, they get into drugs, so they no longer employable, or at least not comparatively employable. But in the same time, yes, the Chinese, like I used to be, I was so eager for this opportunity. I would do this much cheaper than you do. Yeah. So in a free economy, yes, I beat them. So it sounds very good. So we enjoy that ride for a while until now, that topic. So that's why bring the job back to America is so difficult, because the corporation get used to, in China, I can do this. If I want a road come here, I just ask the government just go do it. And they don't have to pay big money for settlement. They just knock down the houses, and then the road will be in a month, but in America, going to be a year. And I lost a lot of opportunities. So if you say Republican for free economy, then and the free economy going to flow over there, it's not here. Well, that kind of like have some kind of I totally understand what's your confusion, but yes, then let's see who's the losers, who's the winner. The winner is consumer. So okay, everybody is consumer because everybody need to buy stuff. When when your money can buy more stuff, for example, like I have this cup. If you made America, it's going to be $10. If you made in China, $2. And when in the same shelf, I go to the $2 one. Okay, so this is natural. There's natural market share. And so who's the loser? The loser is the entire community losing out this, and they wasn't able to find themselves in the new global redistribution supply chain. Then they become a burden of the country. Like in a company, you can fire an underperformed employee, then the company is getting to the society, it had nothing to do with you. Your company performance will be totally independent from the employee you fired, they're gone. So you will have all the smart, hardworking employee can make your company great again. But country is different. Country, you cannot get rid of your underperformed employee, underperformed citizens. You cannot say, okay, all of y'all don't have a job. We just put into a pickup truck and dump you into the Mexican border and bye-bye. I don't see you again. Don't come back to pick up our unemployment check. Well, this is not how our country works. So whoever being the losing side on the global supply chain, this is by force, and they still circling in this country. They're still in the community. They still vote, and they still living on our common fund, which is taxpayers' money going to the treasury, and either by unemployment fund or retraining fund or so there was a social cost we never take into account on the globalization. So because of the so-called globalization is the money and the product can free flow, but the human cannot. The human stuck in here. The American lost job is stuck in here. It's not like they can just go to China to get the job they used to have and living to have. Then it comes to another philosophy is, what's our goal for a country? Is a country we watch out for each other, or we are globalists, And so that is becoming the point. I think what we have right now is either we just forget about this part of people, and those part of people, they're still staying here in the same country, hold the same passport you do, they're voting in the same booth as you do. And if they totally distressed, you have more crime on the street. The high crime area always a poverty area. Poverty create not just distress. It create high crime rate, and it become a place you don't want to live. Like if you have to board your house in that time, you have to have your rifle right next to your bed in order to even survive over there. That there's no prosperity or happiness for their life, and we back to the root of the jungles. So when this group of people become so large, like that's what Trump say about Rust Belt, then you starting to have a political time bomb. Then you have to weigh out, well, should we pay a little more? Because eventually we're still going to pay. I will pay $2 for making China, but the money is gone over there. The gone over there, and the regime use the money, maybe doing something, come back to attacking us. And then the people at home can defend liberty with us. They are so poor, they don't have any money. And then we don't have anybody to save us. Yes, we enjoy some cheap money. We're making some money on the global supply chain redistribution. Well, guess what? And then when we wake up, our community no longer safe. No longer safe. The political, there was so much anger in the people are not part of those global fists. And the war, civil war, or the war socialist starting to coming up. So that's all result from the globalization, because the kids don't have jobs, then they want a government, depend on governments, and the government who pay the government, taxpayer. If we don't have a job, and government tax us too much more, we're like a slave. We're just working for the government. You know, we just pay our share. So the globalization sounds fine and nice, and then until it hit back, but it didn't hit it instantly. It hit back like 30 years later.
Right.
It kind of, so if we strictly talking about free economy without government intervention, well, are you going to sell your kid? Are you going to sell your child? I believe if you're willing to sell your child, there was a market for it. Okay.
Right.
So is there more? Is there more over there? So if you like Angel, you run a big company, have a big business, and then do you want to pass the business to your child? Or you rather hire your neighbor's child because they only ask for 1/5 the salary, so you can fire your child, let them out of job, and let them have no opportunity to learn anything from you, and then because the neighbor's child only ask for 1/5 the salary your child's asked. So that is coming to, you know, who's who and who you take care first. And you share one boundary in a country, we have a moral obligation, watch out each other, because we share the same treasury pool. We put our taxpayer money into that pool, and that pool of money will pay our common defense, our military, our roads and bridges, our schools. And so to some extent, our fellow citizen almost like a kind of like a family member to some extent, you like it or not, but you do share the financial pool.
Right.
And if you need to apply for a student loan, you don't go to China or go to Mexican, and or if you are employed, or you know, or you need to police to come to you, you don't call across the border Mexican, you call your local. So then you become like, okay, the globalists come as kind of later on, oh, it was so nice, we can enjoy the best French wine, the best Italian marble, the cheapest Chinese making garment. There's no way we can make it in America. That sounds good on that theme, but when it comes to your fellow citizen completely at expense to destroy the entire community, then the price is starting to seem very, very high. If you look at Japan very protective about their industry. They don't allow foreign export coming in, and China very, very protective about their job.
Absolutely.
So then it turned out America is the only one do not care about our own workers. So Angel, if you want to live in the community, do you want to live in the community, a lot of rich people, everybody happy and able to find a dream, or you want to go to live in a place and nobody have anything, everybody so sad and no hope, right? So then how can we, so if we keep pushing this globalist, that is the, you know, is today what we're coming to. We have a large segment of the community, they cannot keep up.
Right.
And you can either turn it into a slavery, which they refuse to, say, okay, you cannot compete with the Chinese. Well, I was born in China and grew up over there. I was as a 10-year-old kid. One time, our primary school say, you know what, we need money to buy a tape recorder so we can play whatever the exercise, morning exercise, and that costs 400 yen. And then it's like, we don't, and the school didn't have the money. And then they say, hey, look at all the kids from 2nd grade to all the way to 5th grade. Y'all go to the mountain to chop down some bamboo. Each bamboo will sell for 1 penny yen. And we have to get like 40,000 yen in order to get 400 yen, 40,000 bamboo in order to get 400 yen. Do you know, listen, as a kid, I was 10 years old. I was very 10 years old. And we were the seniors in the elementary school. So the entire school went to mountain, came in there for several days, chop down bamboo, and the boys just carry out the bamboo. There's no road, there's not something. We sleep on the pure dirt. You ask the school kids to sleep in the pure dirt in America, that's a child abuse, right? But for us,
so much.
But for
us, it's not, it's fine.
We're fine, we survive, we have fun, and we've done it. So to some extent, the overprotective culture in America actually make kids not as tough as the kids like we survive in China. We went through this one. We can deal with a lot of obstacles in life, but people living here, I remember when I bought the house and the seller, we visit one of the bedroom, and the seller put a little very cute little heart saying, "My little princess," and that's their daughter's room. I was like, that was a really strong mind. It's like hit home. It's like, oh my God, when we grew up, our parents asked us to do what? Go cooking, go start a fire, go do something. Nobody calls us little princess, you know?
Yeah, I know, I remember.
And then nobody's like pamper us like this. We're just like, go walk. Do you done your homework yet? Do you do this yet? You know, just like keep checking, keep pushing. There's not much of sweet. I was almost brought tear in my eyes. It's like we live in such different worlds. Some girl born, the parents at church now, they are calling a little princess, and we are just
that's how my daughter is now. It's just, you can't help it. You're born, you grew up in America, and it's just the culture now.
It is, but what I'm saying is, I'm not suggesting people live through the childhood I lived through. That's very harsh.
Right. No,
I'm
I
just
hear
saying,
you.
but the saying, the consequence is, yes, you want a slave work, you go to the lower class family, they able to suffer a lot more. They require a lot less. That's why slavery is so popular before 100 years ago, because you have a human capital.
It was free labor, and this country was built on free labor.
That was different out of context, because every country like that. In China, we were kind of like free labor to the emperor, and
in Egypt.
In Egypt was the slave builder, build the pyramid, and China was the slave builder, Great Wall. So there was a slave system in human society. It was not merely American invented. It was long before American even exists. But that was why. So that's bring up to another political things is. You're going to build a political system, you just have a few people, enslave majority people, or we're going to have a government is for the people, of the people, by the people. The American ideal inspire us, inspire your parent brought you over here, inspire me coming over here, is because of this ideal, we the people. The government is so for we the people, because throughout human history, we never show on the government was enslave their own citizens. It was for for example, like UK is the king's kingdom, okay? And Sweden have their own king, China have their own king, Japan have their own king, even Vietnam have their own king. So every little country have their own monarchy family. And so it's not really we the people, it was the wealth concentrate to that family, and we pretty much over there serve them, and we live on their land, Well, so this is what American ideal. So that another question, we don't have monarchy here, but then we turn into a corporate, because the corporate, they do not think they share the type of American people. For example, if you have American entrepreneur, he's so successful, he will bring up a lot of middle class around with him, so there is the balance, and we have to ask us ultimate questions. What is country really for? What is our government really for? And that, I think that is your philosophy switch either way. But right now, back to the question you asked, is like, well, right now we kind of screwed, because after decades, people lost jobs. They're not trained. They didn't have, and also we have this culture, those pop culture, promote the consumerism, promote those instant gratification. American almost lost the virtue of the forefounder, and they hardworking, and they are not as
they're very more short-sighted than they used to be.
A lot more short-sighted and less healthy. You look at the picture taken like in the 20s and 30s, people fit. It doesn't matter what race they are, they look fit, right? And they look like they at least have some kind of moral, they are part of a community. But right now you see the people starting to not have a strong bond on community. do not have a strong bond inside family. Divorce rates going way up. And so people more isolated. People are more isolated.
And social media doesn't help either. Yeah.
Well, social media just help us to garner some light.
Right.
You
Like
know?
it doesn't help us connect in a meaningful way or anything like that.
And I was like, oh, this is my dinner. So like, great, like light, you know? So we kind of lost touch into what we are as a human, what was the meaningful of life, what's meaningful of a family, and what's meaningful as a community. And we barely know who's our neighbor, neither do we care. And we barely check out who, you know, who they are. And we just become, when I work for corporation, I barely thinking anything about politics. Like you're already ahead of me, you're thinking about politics when you're in corporation. I was just thinking about my own life, coming home, pay my mortgage, what do I need to cook tonight, and what do I need to eat tomorrow. It's just something very simple, wasn't expand to make other people, make my life better or make other people's life better. But now is, I think the change of American culture, I do not think it changed to a better way. I think it's moved from the traditional route, and that's what the suffer and struggle we have right now. We diminishing the family value. Right now, people don't even know what the sex they are. You know, don't even know what's their gender. And to me, is tap into the globalist. But that's another topic. Is
well, so just going back to the globalism. Sorry to interrupt you, just before you lose your train of thought and move on to something else. So you were talking about globalism a lot, and you were saying that it's a cause of a lot of problems, which I agree with. Right? You can't take an American with this high standard of living and then make them go to China or a third world country with a lower standard of living. So that I understand. So like, remember you were saying that part of the reason why you were attracted to the Republican Party is because they're a party of small government, right? But like, in order to implement the rules, like more protectionist rules that you're saying that we might need, right? We need the government to come in and say, hey, private companies, you have to bring these jobs back, by law, or we're going to tax you or something. So I feel like that's less like the government, that's less of the government suing and more of like a free capitalistic, globe right now, right? And it's the government's job to like step in, if I'm hearing you correctly, to step in and say, to these companies, you can't just pursue the money. You need to think about, America as a country and the American people. So that like requires the government to come in and force them to do that, which I thought Trump was trying to do at one point, but then he backpedaled. So that was quite disappointing,
You are very correct about that. That's why I was saying in earlier, I was attracted to certain part of policy in Democrat Party, which is to protect American people, because I see the price. If there's no price to pay, well, it sounds wonderful, but now we have a price to pay, and it costs a lot less. Like for example, like if you're going to enjoy a $2 a cup instead of $10 a cup, but the price was, you have very distressed community and got a lot of people poor, got a lot of people in debt, the country's in debt, the states in debt, the cities in debt, and your family's in debt, credit card is about to bust off. Or another alternative is, yes, I pay $10 for the cup, but everybody have a job, and other people, the poor people become rich because they have a job, they can buy my things, and I can sell into a higher price too because they have money, And that's why if you have free choice, for example, if you're from North Korea, you going to Somalia, everything going to be cheap. And you go to Germany, everything going to be more expensive,
sure.
Right? Which country you go? You go to the cheap country or you go to the expensive country? You go to Germany because the living standards are much higher. Yes, your expenses was higher, but your income also higher. So if you choose to go to Somalia, so yeah, cheap, everything's cheap. You're only looking for the purchasing part. You didn't looking at the earning money part. So when you are entrepreneur, you're thinking about how much money you make, right?
Right.
You're not just looking for how cheap it is. If
Right.
if you make $1 million, a $10, let's don't go to the extreme. If you make $100,000, a $10 cup is not that big deal. But if your maximum capability in the free market is to make $10,000 a year, well, $10 a cup looks very expensive. So it was all irrelevant. It's all relevant to the income. So to me, making America making more expenses is not a problem, because Germany, their stuff is more expensive and people living better life. And 99% of population will go choose Germany over Somalia, because Somalia was much cheaper and got free labor. You probably can find some slavery more easier. So do you want to bring the community to that level, or you want to bring the community to the front like Germany? Even you clean toilet, you're probably able to afford a apartment, can even buy a car. But go to Somali, even you a tax accountant, you're still not even able to buying a private vehicle. So it was pretty crystal question is, so we create a community and we take care of each other, but we maintain this good, do you need to set a boundary? It's kind of like Harvard, okay? Right. You say, okay, we can tear down the wall. So Harvard, there's no wall, everybody can come in. I can guarantee you the academic level going to go straight down, because you don't have the reason they can maintain that. Yes, they are selectivity. So they kind of feel against, okay, let's open up, but we are unique differently, and everyone have their own places. So some people say, okay, there is some, so it better the question is, the government serve we the people, or only serve the few people really capital a lot of money on globalists? For example, like the Wall Street, right? Right. The Wall Street support China, benefit how many people? About 500,000 people in the entire Wall Street, but at the expense of the entire America.
Absolutely.
Is that the deal? I don't think so. Yeah, if you move manufacturing out of America into China, well, yes, you got cheap TV, but you even don't have a job. So what's the TV was $200 cheaper is irrelevant. So you go to a small town in America, you see a lot of a dollar store. It used to be a very prosperous small town, have a big mansions on the main street 100 years ago. Now the only thing they can afford is a dollar store. Right. So is the globalism? You need a
Walmart everywhere.
Well, Walmart and dollar store basically kill all the mom and pop shop. And mom and pop shop is basically give the financial independence to average Main Street citizens. Like, for example, like you wants to run like me as a real estate investor. At one point, back after the financial meltdown, I knew the Wall Street mutual fund coming to Raleigh, coming to North Carolina, they buy houses $80 million a month, buy out all the houses. Small investor like us, we're not able to compete them to make a cash offer, so they kind of screening us. Yes, they are making so big, but you destroy the community, and nobody. So like, for example, like you have this much amount of money, you have the big corporation have very small amount of people, but suck a majority of the money, and then let the majority of people have nothing. Then it would not be a stable society, because you have too big of a rich gaps. And it was more prosperous community, a more happier community, and more sustainable way when everybody at least have opportunity, they work hard, they can get ahead. And whatever the effort they're willing to put into, they can have. But if the government coming in to dictate certain industry, and the private just cannot compete, or there's no room for individual even get in, well, guess what? There's not much. So it's the matter of, do you go to with rule of the jungle? Rule of the jungle is, the tiger can eat everybody, or you want to maintain ecosystem, majority of us have a say in the community, that doesn't sound completely Republican, but I do see very clear, if we don't solve the problem, create an economy system will benefit most our countrymen and women, and it just doesn't work. We will be coming, and like the big tech company like Amazon, like those companies, they have so much money. They
Right.
have so much money.
Right.
They can shut down free speech in front of our eyes. So I enjoy Amazon. I buy a lot of things from Amazon, but when I see them, they can shut down free speech like that. It's like, oh, all the convenience I got was to feeding these beasts.
Right.
Was to feeding this beast.
Well, I guess here's the frustrating part for me. So when I listen to you, like everything you're saying makes complete sense. And you know, like I said, I'm a Republican, you're a Republican, so we both believe in the same ideology. But then when you look at what the Republicans have done in the past 4 years, and this is what I find frustrating, is they have had, you know, a Republican in the presidency. They had control of both houses for the first 2 years at least, right? And then instead of, you know, passing infrastructure like you mentioned, which we need terribly in this country, you know, they passed like a tax bill that only really benefited the big corporations that we're talking about on Wall Street, where they, you know, they cut their corporate tax rate. They you know, like it didn't really benefit like middle class at all, you know, you and me at all, right? And like what do you propose? Like, well, number one, how do you reconcile like that ideology with like the way that they've actually governed in the past 4 years, right? That's number one. And then number two, how do you propose, with all the frustrations and problems that you mentioned, how do you propose we get like the jobs back? So all those people that you said that are forgotten part of the labor force can, you know, rejoin the labor force and we become productive again. Like how, so there's two questions.
Well, you brought up a very good insight. That's what I say. Right now, Republican Party become Trump's party.
Yeah.
Because Trump's party was a departure from the traditional Republican Party. The traditional Republican Party, just like exactly what you say, they will give a tax cut to big corporations. They couldn't care about middle classes. They wouldn't pass infrastructure bill that's benefit every single one of us. And they don't want to bring job back. You don't bring job back, these people will go socialist. They will go left. That was inevitable. They have no outlet, and they still here. They still vote.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Left,
You're right.
So that's why I was pleased. Trump still have a majority support in the Republican Party, because a lot of Republican grassroots people recognize, oh, my party actually, some part of their traditional policy they stands for are for the big corporation. And Trump been talking about the globalists. So the globalists already become a bad name. So I think the globalists will control both parties. During the Bush year or Clinton year, during the Bush Jr. year, they more control the Republican Party. So they use the American Party as the vehicle to launch a foreign war. And then when Trump come in, the Republican Party becoming the champion for American people, and then the Democrat Party becoming the champion for the corporation again. So they switch. So there's a switch, and people didn't recognize. So that's why you see a lot of struggles. Like, well, the things that you and I talking about, also Trump talking about why the Republican Party didn't come on board. Well, because there was a traditional Republican Party, and now we want to force these people out of the Republican Party. We bring the new people in, was agree to make American great again and make American first. So we are not the last in our government consideration. We the people need to be the first, second, and third priority in the government decision making. You know, we send so many foreign aid outside, and we're going to go after our small business on a small mistake on tax or whatever, something they didn't do right. We punish them so harsh. But we are so generously like, oh, you illegal immigrant, come in. You illegal, I don't care. But if you as a citizen, you do something little tiny illegal in your business, the government going to on your rear and harass you. Sure. So that is not put American people first. Yes, we do need to have rule of law, but if there's compassion, I would give compassion to my neighbor, to the law-abiding citizen first, And so we have a more compassion, but kind of like the tough love, position. And so I do think right now the Republican base starting to realize they need a new direction, and Trump was pointing out a new direction. For example, we need to be more care about our own country's infrastructure. We don't need to chasing down some people in the Middle East. As long as they don't come here, they do whatever things over there, we don't need to stir up another country's war and send our men and women to go fight a war. So I think Trump on that. But if you remember, Trump is quite different than traditional Republican Party. That's why he doesn't have a full support, even though we have presidency and then the Republican Party control the House and the Senate. Back then, Trump haven't yet have a full control of the Republican Party. The old power is still very strong. That's why they're not come on board on, for example, like the infrastructure bill. The Democrats supported more than the Republican. And the neocon inside Republican Party is like, let's go to war with Iran. Just let us constantly nonstop, just an endless war. They want to drag us into another war. The more war you fight, the less stable to the country. So there is today, before I come to this interview, we have a grassroots people meeting in the NCGOP headquarters. We were talking about exactly the same thing you were asking. Say, you know what? That's what we resonate with. This we want a new, instead of a split Republican Party, let's reform Republican Party to turn it into the Republican Party we think is for American. It's for American, the average people. We don't need to go out to start a new party. Let's just reform this one and starting from grassroots and move our way up. And that's actually just exactly what you're saying. The frustration you're thinking about when you control 3 branch and you still didn't even do anything. You couldn't even pass an infrastructure bill. You couldn't even get a health care bill. Well, you don't like Obamacare. Well, guess what? What's your proposal? What's something so exciting? What's something so exciting? Let us to buying in. Let the Democrat also exciting about it. Let the unafraid also exciting. Let all American, regardless their party, just like, oh yeah, this is really makes sense. And it was benefit all American people, but you didn't do that. You just say, you hate this, you hate that. Well, you hate it, I got it. What's the better solution? Bring it on. Bring it on. Let us get exciting about it. Let us get behind you. And so the political parts has been absent from Republican Party on that front. And Trump kind of filled the void by in the first 2 years, he was struggling, fighting those never Trumper or those Trump hater, and he thinking he's not really Republican. So he was fighting, and after he kind of stable, and then they already lost the House. So it was unfortunate to our country. We have those internal fight, but it probably is a growing pain, and we eventually have to come to conclusion. Let's just forget our party line. Let's thinking about what's the biggest common denominator can unite us, and let's work towards the goal. Reduce the federal debt is as I think everybody should go for it. Who wants more debt, and create a better opportunity for all American, put American people in the center of the policy making, and on American people. Who can against that? So 5 things we cannot against when we can agree together.
Right. So what do you see the differences between communism and socialism?
Oh, communism is different. Socialism is kind of like soft landing to communism. Socialism, to some extent, it doesn't sound as evil. For example, like if you have a group of people have the same ideology, have the same moral code, have the same and hardworking Cold War ethic, socialism can work in some form. It's kind of like family. Family is a form of socialism.
Right. And Europe's a socialistic, society too. And they function. Not that we want to be like Europe, but.
Well, they function because a lot of these, when they function well, it was during the time they are very homogeneous countries. They are very homogeneous cultures, and they don't have a large amount of people have a very conflicting values. They all about the same. For example, like the Danish, the Dutch, the Swedish. They are kind of agreeable in some way. They don't like, I hate you, I need to kill you, and I'm going to denounce you. I mean, I'm going to bring my gun into the road, going to have a civil war. They are not into that form. So if they don't affected by outside war. They don't have other people have bring a totally conflict ideology into that society. It kind of work in some way. It kind of work.
Mhm.
You know, it kind of work. But if you
Right.
bring up somebody else, totally, but as a group, they wouldn't grow very, very big because their top performer going to be capped. You know,
Sure.
so they were not
Sure.
going to have a Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates. So because their
Sure.
top talent, they would not produce a top talent. So they
Right.
were kind of like, we're all above average and we're all happy and mellow, you know. So
Right.
it was one model of the community. You know, it was not horrible. But communism is different. Communism is turn a country is not to a monarchy, but it actually is worse than monarchy. The monarchy, for example, like the King of England, right? They do care about their country, okay, because that's their wealth, and there are people they can't enslave them too much because they need to keep them a certain part of a happiness, so they can continue to pay taxes, so they have more enjoy a lavish life, and then they share the same culture. They share the same culture, and the people look up to the king as the moral guidance, so right or wrong, and then they have the noble classes, and they take pride for their private ownership. They take pride of their moral standing in the community. So there is one structure. It looks like people, yes, they have a hierarchy, but they kind of stable, you know. But the downside is it make breakthrough harder if you're born into a
Right. There's no
classes.
social mobility.
If you're born in peasant classes, it's very difficult to move up.
Right.
But the communism is like this. The communist is, with all the communists in the world, they have all share one thing in common. They love to destroy their culture. They love to kill their own people. They love to turn people against each other. They love to ultimate control, turn the entire country into a concentration camp. And they are the biggest landlord in the country. They're the biggest employer in the country. They control everybody, like move everybody. And the socialist country like Sweden or some northern Europe country, they at least have some compassion over there, right? They don't view each other as enemy, but communist country, they view each other as communist. And nobody say in communist country, including a number one leader, number two leader, no matter how high your rank in the government and how low, everybody is on the survival mode, like fully survival mode.
Sure. It's like a mafia state.
You are right. Totally mafia state is terrorist state, a totally terrorist state. And so there was a huge difference. Oh, I lost you. It's totally different than the Northern Europe, that kind of socialist, than the traditional communist country. Communist country also do things, they kill a lot of their own people. For example, like China, in 3 years, have 40 million people die from starvation. That's man-made famine. There's not natural disaster, it's man-made famine. People don't care about it. Yeah, and people don't care about it, and people not even operate against the government. And then Cambodia, they kill 1/5 of their population. Cambodia, Communist Party killed 1/5 of their population. And Ukraine have 6 million people die from starvation, and in the area have a very big agriculture produce, and have 6 million people die from starvation. This is out of a man-made famine. This is not natural disaster. So communism basically is one of those dark force, try to weigh everybody out, turn everybody into animals. And this is a very scary place to go. The northern part, European socialist, sounds quite cute, and it could be achievable in somewhere in a small country like Taiwan, Japan, South Korea. Those are very homogeneous country. They can achieve some form of this kind of socialist, but there's one downside, and one precondition they can sustain this kind of system is they don't have outside threat. When they have outside threat, the men born in this kind of country, they lost their masculinity, manhood. That's why you see this European, they don't have army, they depend on American men to protect them. They don't even thinking about to put their defense budget up 2% to protect their own people. So in the new year, their woman got raped by Muslim, and their men don't even, where's their men? The man is not protecting their land. So the socialist country, the reason they can pick this way, because America was holding up the protection. For Taiwan, if Taiwan nobody holding up, and then the CCP will invade them, you know. And for South Korea, if America didn't help them out, the North Korea going to take them out. And for Japan,
I think that's the interesting, like that's what was so interesting about the last 4 years in Trump. He made me, and I think many Americans, see how big of a role America played in the world stage, and how much we're needed, actually, you know.
Well, place you can go meet the people, especially in Long Island, is a highly dense population area. And I remember when I campaigned, when I go to the restaurant, eat food, when I on my way out, I shake everybody's hand on my way out. I don't know that. You know,
right.
I make sure I give them my card. I print a lot of cards. If you say hot cards, you print a lot of cards you can give to people, you know, and tell them you run.
Would you consider yourself an extrovert?
Well, I kind of mix. But when I'm put into the zone, I need to talk to people. I will talk to people. But if I need to be myself, I don't need to talk to anybody for two days. I'm okay too. And
same here.
Yes. And so it's kind of fun. It doesn't mean that what I do, it may be suitable for other people, not necessarily. But I'm just saying, if you put yourself out there, you may discover a lot of things you don't know about yourself. And you also think about, you inspire maybe you inspire other Asians in your local community to join the GOP. If they can see you articulate the issue, like you've been talking me through, a lot of them appear to me, you already put a lot of thought about this. And then you're able to talk to your liberal friends and Republican friends, and then you can compare the two and then make your own conclusion. And you are already pretty good on understand those issues. And out of it is just sell yourself, you know. It is. And another tips is fake it until you make it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I feel like
You know?
I feel like as an immigrant, that's been my motto my whole life. Fake it till you make it. You know, like fake understanding like the language, fake understanding the culture, like until like you finally get it one day.
Yes. Because you need to mentally prepare yourself doing this, you know. And when I was in some kind of training school in real estate, they say in order to motivate yourself to be really committed to this. I mean, a lot of people lack of a drive, you know. Like if you don't have the drive, then you don't have the problem. But the people lack of drive, so like, well, bring a picture, the things you want. Or people motivated by consumerism. So what kind of house you want, what kind of car you want.
Okay.
And the house you want, you can afford to buy it. Well, it's $2 million, you can afford to buy, you only make $20,000. Well, dream that, then dream enough, then you will motivate. Say, you know what, I'm going to work towards the goal. You know, I mean, running for office is also that. If you want to run for Congress, what kind of Congresswoman you want to be? First, design the final product, like in mind.
Yeah.
And what kind of, you want to be a stateswoman, or you want to be or you just want to be somebody a middle of the road, just to be meandering around into one of the Washington Swamp news.
Right, which we don't want. That's exactly what we don't want, right? We want a whole new crop of people who aren't the swamp. So
well, if that, you can view yourself, you are the breakthrough of the new clean the swamp creator.
Right.
You know,
right.
You can blame yourself, so like clean the swamp. I would say Donald Trump doing that, it will sound very good to the voters' ear. However, when you declare war to your enemy so quick, other people are already garnishing themselves, boom, take you down. But if you go over there quietly, do all the things, there's another ways to do too, you know. There's
right.
There's a different way to clean the swamp.
Right.
One way is to use the speaker, the cleaner is coming, the cleaner is coming. And another way, just go ahead and get your shovel and go ahead and clean, don't say anything.
Which camp do you fall under? I feel like I fall under the former, where I would just tell everybody what I'm doing.
Well, that is cool too, because there is a psychological warfare, you know what I mean? If you garnish your own people, you come in like big force, like Trump, when he said Diana Swan, you see how much people echo him in the stadium. It can bring down the whole house, and that gives him that strength. One thing I do like, because me and Trump, we both ran in the same year and both a new candidate. I can see what he's doing. He basically loved to go to this rally. That's his spirit. This is his spiritual nutrient. And like this, he needs this drug to feed him, to keep going. He's a billionaire. He got everything, you know? He got the fame, he got the money, he got a beautiful wife, he got everything. So
he needs a lot of love, a lot of attention.
He needs a lot of attention, a lot of praise, and a lot of pat on the back. This is his drug to move forward. But if you give him that, he will fight for you. You know?
No, it completely worked. I mean, if you go to rural America, to places that politicians don't generally go to, and then you hold big rallies, I mean, they love it, right? Like it's like you didn't forget about them. You paid enough attention to go to their town and to hold an event, and they even when I go to town and I start a new business, the local newspaper, they write about it immediately, right? They're so happy. Like the restaurant owners, they all know you. They're like, oh, you're the new Asian family that are starting this and that. And everyone knows, and they're just so excited. So I can see why Trump got so much traction and all across America. People are just so happy that, someone's paying attention to their town.
Yeah, because just like Trump's inauguration, he's like, the forgotten people no longer forgotten. And we're going to have the power return to you, we the people. I mean, that is very powerful, very inspiring. It will bring tears to many eyes, because people feel like they're being neglected in their own country for so long. Yeah. For so long, to the point this the first time in their lifetime they even hear about a politician, even care about them as American. That's why he's American first. American first doesn't mean everybody last. It's like we didn't put American people as the center of our policy making for so long. Yeah. They've been the bottom of priority, and now those forgotten people, we need to bring that into the center, and that's why he's able to inspire so many people. That's why he have a lot of flaw, and he still have followed, because there's no other alternative. There's no other alternative. I mean, so like right now, I think it's a good time to run for office, because GOP in the post-Trump, it's not post-Trump war, and it's dying for new young bloods coming in.
There's definitely a battle for the Republican soul right now,
Well, here's the thing. If you want to run for office, think about how to lead, lead by example. Mm-hmm. And like personally, I'm not attracting to the things bashing liberal all the time, turning to the agenda. Our job is whining and complaining about how liberal and destroy America.
Right.
Paint a vision. A vision a lot of people can agree on, can get excited about, can get excited and get behind you. It doesn't matter. People will drop their party difference. A lot of people will drop their party difference. I have people volunteer me. They say, I have people say, today I vote, I write in Suguj as president. They post on Twitter. I didn't know these people.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I have people putting my name and print into it and say, I support Suguj. I don't even know these people. I said, I'm a libertarian. I'm voting for Suguj. And if you generally, you can touch a lot of people. And when you touch a lot of people, the echo feeding back to your energy to move forward. Because you got to have a why I run for office. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Why? And if you got the why figured out, and then it will be a lot easier for you to reach out to people, and a lot easier to inspire others to join the cause, because this is not one person's cause. It takes our army to.
Yeah, it really does. And I think the why is very easy. I personally think this is the greatest country on earth, right? And
Yes.
we need to preserve it. And like you said, all the people before us that came, that fought so hard to make this country what it is, right? And the people that are continuing that fight for progress, that's the why, right? To keep this country, this like shiny city on the hill for so many in the world, like that's the why.
Yes, I mean, I will highly encourage you. I mean, the 2022. The fighting day is like December. Right now it's only February. I mean, you can just jump into the race like even this year.
No, you're amazing. I'm so glad we spoke. I mean, this has been such a great conversation. You're such a wealth of information. I can see why voters like resonate with you. You're like a big ball of positive energy.
Well, if you have a lot of love to the people, your country, your people, you come naturally. You will naturally to guide you to seeking for the thing, to understand the things you don't know. Because the bottom line is surrounding human. Do you care about this human or not? And then all the policy is all about human. And that's what the moral compass is coming from. And I would love to see you run for office. I want to see you I love to see. I can see you to be the new star of GOP.
That's something I'll definitely look into. I mean, I thank you for the encouragement. I mean, I was thinking like 20 years down the line, maybe I'll do it.
Oh no, 20 years. 20 years. Well, I even don't know how this country will change in 20 years.
Right.
And, I mean, I was thinking 2022 is a great opportunity.
I'm just thinking, like, who am I, right? Like, that's all I know everybody's like, who are they when they first start running? So
no, it was this. The problem is the culture. Like I would say, the elite classes and the average American classes. The education we receive or the culture we surrounding with, basically is put us down. So like, you need to take your hair off, who you are. This is for the other special privileged people, special good old boy, good old girl club people. You are not even part of the club. Who are you? Well, guess what? This is the unique time in human history.
Very true.
As a citizen, you can be a stateswoman. I mean, this is history calling. I mean, every history was made by average people, made by leader, made by follower. If you can be the one can sway the political wind, that way, I mean, this is a lifetime accomplishment, And even you can run it for 2022, there will be a great opportunity. It is. Yeah. You will bring some highlights, some fresh air, and probably some new hope in GOP party. GOP needs somebody like your age, your energies, your big smile to represent GOP. Yes, it is. I'm sincere. It is.
Yeah, I've read about that too. I've read about that. How, the GOP like needs more minorities. They need more women, and so I think that's that's very interesting that you think there's like an opportunity there.
Yes, they not just need a woman, a minority. They need to holding on their conservative principle, and because they are the anchor of this country. But they need to outreach more and bring more people in. And I think you will be a great candidate. I mean, win or lose, you will be a great candidate because if you can win, it will be wonderful. Even if you don't win, you bring a new fresh air into GOP, and you set an example how to run for office. You set an example, stick to your principle, believe in like the people's coalition. You bring the people to like say something other people across the board can get excited about, to get inspired about. I think after those COVID, after this whole crazy war, I think people need hope, inspiration other than bashing.
They need some warmth, they need some hope, they need like a plan for the future that involves like regular ordinary citizens, and not just, not just the elite, not just the political the careerists and everything like that. So yes,
that's right. I mean, like, you have to give yourself some historical calling too. Like, if you run, you may be able to swing a wave to flop into this wing, and so kind of like me, I ran, I didn't win, but I was able to spoke to you. Otherwise, we don't even know each other. We couldn't even.
That's so true. That's very, very true. And then you were also in the documentary, and I'm sure that inspired a lot of people that watched it as well.
Yeah. So this is the side effect. Like I say, I ran, I didn't win. But if I ran, I can inspire young people to join the cause. I did something to accomplish some of my goal. You know
absolutely.
I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. For example, like you ran. I hope you can win, and I believe you can win. Even if you don't win, you set an example.
It's not the end of the world, right? It's a good learning experience, right? And then, like you said, you can inspire other people, or you can, in the future, you can run again, or you can even help other people, who want to run in the future, like you're helping right now. It's our audience, me. So it's not a waste of time, no matter what.
No, anytime you're truly willing to serve the people, serve the general interest, you never waste time. And because we are human species, we are glue animals, we are herd animals. We thrive in a glue setting. That's why we have to create a social structure that will benefit every one of us. And and if you listen to AOC, well, she know how to pitch. They said, "Oh, we created something, for all of us." And like I say, I don't have prejudice to anybody. I listen to anybody as a high achievement. Like I say, no matter how much you hate Nancy Pelosi, but I did call a moment. She was so exciting to say, "We need to drain the swamp. We need to make America great." And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Nancy Pelosi saying that." Right. But as a Republican, caught that moment, immediate praise her, send some cookies to her office to praise her. There's something rather than painting her some ugly old woman's picture, try to make her look like a witch. What I'm saying is, look at each other, we as a human. When you throw a stone to somebody, you're not going to receive stone well back. You know what I mean? A lot of time, like for example, I have in the primary, my opponent's campaign manager, well, she was against me. Then after the primary, I won a landslide, and then she came to me and said, "Hey, I was your opponent's campaign manager," and blah blah, and then we become best friends.
Wow.
After that, and so a lot of time in politically, even your opponent or something, you got to think about view people, not your political enemies.
Right, of course.
Yes, but a lot of people view them as political enemies, and I think that's the wrong thing. Sometimes they want to cheering their base, so they attack, throw darts on other guy. And but I think the new polity, like personally, I would like to see is bring a new vision. All of us can get excited about. We can rally behind it. We can unify behind it. This country needs some healing. I would say it needs a healing. Trump is a great energizer. He little feel short on the unified form, like united country. He feel a little short.
Yeah, to me, he's very divisive.
I can understand what he come from. He feels so strong. He need to speak to the people. Has forgotten so long. He's so passionate about these people. So he felt quite sure on the unified front. But as a president, we do need a gesture, at least a gesture, even you fake it, at least
So
to,
true. So true. Even when he showed a little bit of humanity, we all applauded him, and then he like the next day did something the opposite. Then you're just like, oh, why? Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this
no,
was
I
not,
hear you.
he's natural a fighter. So he has his own historical moment when we need a fighter. You know, we need a boxer on the front to fight those swan. And unfortunately, he didn't drink the swan drank him.
No, yeah. No, thank you for explaining Trump that way too. I hope a lot of our viewers can look, because I'm not a Trump fan at all,
Mhm.
but when I'm listening to you describe Trump, you're able to get to me and
Mhm.
get me to understand why somebody would like Trump far more than anybody else my friends on the right can ever do, you know, with facts
Oh,
or
thank you.
yeah, like when I hear you talk about Trump, I truly do understand and see where you're coming from, and I think back to the things, you know, I think back to speeches, I think back to certain moments, and I see it now, you know,
Mhm.
and I think you're the first person that's ever gotten me to think that. Otherwise, it's just all bad, negative stuff that I'm like thinking about him, not through the press or anything, just through my own, you know, impressions. So
His personality is hard to chew off for a lot of people, because you don't see people just like so high end gear every time on Twitter and fight this and pick this fight and pick that fight and pick. You don't see people like that in normal life, you
right,
know. And
right.
what sort of why he was have some high gear and high on drug or something, just like, or every day he have to fight somebody, otherwise he wouldn't have like his morning coffee.
I mean, I wish I could talk to you forever, but I do have one last question for you. But
Oh,
I'm sure
sure.
I'm sure I'll be texting you. Um,
Okay.
and I guess, and I think maybe you already answered this question, but like where do you see the Republican Party going now after, you know, the January 6th riots, after this whole like election fraud, you know, debacle, where so many Republicans think that the election was stolen, where you have Marjorie Greene Taylor, who's, you know, I mean, she disavowed QAnon, but you know, she did believe in QAnon. So where do you see the Republican Party going from here?
Well, do you watch a CPAC?
Yeah, I saw some of it, and it wasn't thrilling. I mean, to me,
The Republican Party is still Trump's party.
yeah,
It was going to departure from the old traditional Republican Party that don't care much about the American worker, and it was used to more geared to the big corporation. Now they switch roles. The
interesting.
Democrat Party is more support a big corporation, and the Trump Republican Party is more for the American worker. So they totally switched the role compared to George W. Bush's time. And
Well, I gotta say that tax bill though really did benefit the big corporations the most.
and it does, but also there's a different argument on that, because if you tax the hell out of the corporation, because they are the engine, they also the engine for the economy, and you need to ease up the corporation burden, and also small business burden need to ease up across the board, not just the big corporation, you know. And because a country and the modern economy, everybody has this role. The small business, the medium business, the big corporation, everybody has this role. And it is, I would like to see more regulation, like make the corporation more for the American people than I care about the tax, like easing up their tax. I would like to ease up their tax, but if they are investing in America, you know what I mean? For example, like Apple want to build more factory here, train more American here. Yeah, slam that tax bill, slam the tax rate, because it's going to benefit people. Otherwise, this job is going to lose anyway. We don't have any anyway, you know. And a lot. I would like to see even a tax-free zone like China have, give them 3 years tax-free, encouraging them, move them back, 5 years tax-free, whatever it takes. Because China gives them a great incentive incentive to move it out. And so we are competing global. We're competing global to attract those global supply chain. If we can start all the global supply chain coming to America right now, like you say, the Chinese factory want to move to here, but the American worker not work as hard and demanding much higher salary. We have to, and the benefit. Yes, they make us into a global competition and disadvantage in a precondition, zero tariff. Zero tariff, we have no competition, but you put a high tariff, kind of like China, when they bought the import good with very, very high tariff, like 200-300%, not like Trump talking about dinky 15%, you know, China was slapping 200%, 300% with no mercy. Because their local people unemployment going to threaten the stable of the regime. So they will protect their worker first. And so I would love to see Americans do that, to roll out something very beneficiary to attract the corporation, come use like Trump said, they have multi-trillion-dollar cash laying outside. Encourage them to bring the money back to invest here, because if you tax them so much, they just don't bring the money back. If you don't, but if you don't tax them, say, well, you come back in tax-free, so they will feel safe to bring their money in. But here's the thing: if I let them come in tax-free, I will set up a regulation require, in order to tax-free bring your money back, you have to do investment, not just buy back your stock. You buy back your stock doesn't help the economy. Right. You know what I mean? I slam the tax on you, which is in taxpayers' burden, but you buy back stock, you didn't invest. Correct. You know? So I would have put a string on the policy. Yes, I slam the tax really low on your corporation, but I need you to take over job this creation, block, create this job, and supporting job training, apprentice, and get people on the move. We used to be hardworking. Now we have a lot of lazy people. They need to train their work ethic, whip them into a worker. Right. Starting to build them. It was not going to build overnight, because we will destroy these things. Building up in the last 40 years, it's going to take a while to come back in. So have a little patience to do this process. Don't blame on one president because they didn't do it in one term, because it's hard to reverse that trend. And it's hard to get the two party come to the term to give the corporate that kind of tax benefit. But you need to put a string on it. Don't use the money to put into saving or sit there. Invest in the economy, or let it recirculate it. Right. And,
that's what happened with the PPP money, you know, where they didn't put any like conditions or restrictions on the first round, and people just ended up using it for crazy, you know, excessive things that had nothing to do with coronavirus relief.
Well, if that's the phase, is the people making these rules are like clueless. Why do you even need to put it into first place? This is the common sense, you know. If you give money, if you give corporate tax benefit, well, put a string, have a string attached. I'm not giving it for free, not just say, yours, whatever you want. No, hell no. You know,
that's a great point, right? Because trickle down economics doesn't work.
Trickle down economic work within the boundary. If the money just circulate in this boundary, yes, it will work. Right. But if you go outside, it won't, because it trickle to other places. Right. You know what I mean? True. And it kind of like if you're in a family, the father make a lot of money, bring into the family, it will trickle down to every family member, right? If the father have a multi-family, he need to responsible to, for example, like you tell up the border war, so you tell about the family war, so the father have a multi-wife, then the money he bring in will no longer trigger down here. He trigger down several places, then you will not have that many triggers. The trigger down will no longer work. He like that family better, not here. So you don't have, what's my trigger down? No, you trigger over there, not you.
That's a good analogy. No, that's a good point. That's fair. No, I
Oh
mean,
my God, it's 9:30.
yeah. No, I mean, this has been a very,
Do we really talk 6 hours straight?
yeah, it was a really fun conversation though.
We can talk.
Yeah, we can talk. No, it's just because you have so much interesting insight, and it's really really cool to hear about everything you have to say. And I gotta say, you're not very different, but you're different from what I imagined too.
Oh.
Because like the way they portray you in the film, or the way they even describe you, like you said, it's very like they say gun-toting Republican, right? So like in your mind you have an image of what that is, and then you know and then you watch you in the movie, in the film, and you come across very differently, and then I'm
Mhm.
speaking with you and you come across even more differently.
Oh,
So
really?
it's, yeah, no, because like gun-toting Republican is very like very right, and
Uh-huh.
then you're in the film, you're very like, you're not like what a typical person would imagine a gun-toting Republican would be, right? And then now I'm
Uh-huh.
talking to you, and you're not like a Trump fanatic. You're like, hey, I acknowledge his weaknesses, but I hear his strengths as well, and you're able to articulate that. So it was a very like enlightening um discussion, and it'll be great to showcase our viewers, and maybe get them to think a little bit more about the way they think about the Republican Party, to think about Trump and everything, because like I said, I'm always constantly defending the Republican Party. And I get called selfish and evil and stuff like that, but it's refreshing to hear somebody talk about the Republican Party in the way that I think about them, but in a better way, because you're actually you were part of it, so you know more about it than I do.
Yes, I mean, like you get involved, you will know more too. And like I say, come in to take over the Republican Party, switch to the way we think a party of the people is supposed to be. And who care about their name, And
Right,
then, I mean,
absolutely.
ultimately, if a political party need to serve with the people, otherwise, what the hell you need to stay there?
Right, exactly. So you definitely given me a lot of things to think about. You gave our viewers a lot of cool information, and I'm going to like include the link that you were mentioning about like where you could go to like see like your local political parties, right, where you can
Mhm.
attend events. So I'll put that link up and everything too. And is there anything else that you want to say to our viewers before you?
Well, you know what? This is a great time, and just get involved. Empowering yourself, and you believe in yourself, and reaching out to people with different point of view. You will starting like, even though you don't understand Republican Party stand for, or don't know what Democrats stand for, it doesn't matter. Everything need to have the starting point, and be curious. Get involved, because politics affect everybody's life. And get involved. Yeah, this is our citizens' duty. This is our civic duty. And have
It's a
fun.
privilege too, right?
It's a great privilege, and have fun.
That sounds great. So thank you so much, Sue, for coming on Liberated Panda today. I had such a great conversation. I wish I could air all 6 hours of it, but I'm gonna have to like cut it, but it's going to be great. So
Well,
thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Angel. It's a great pleasure to meet you. Young and smart, beautiful lady, have a political ambition. So I hope you run for office one day. I really do.
Yes, and I hope we become friends and we stay in touch and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You got my phone number. You got to text me anytime. You can call me or something. You can talk to me. Feel free. And
Sounds great. So, and our viewers heard that too. Anyone needs to speak to Sue about running for office or anything, we have her number. So
I have my number. Go on speed dial.
Yeah. So leave us a comment if you have anything. Visit our Twitter page. Do you have a Twitter page, Sue?
I
Or-
haven't
or-
used for a long,
no,
long time. I
no
was not
worries.
in
So
social media.
you can, leave a comment, and then, or visit my Twitter page. And if you need to say anything to Sue, I'll relay the information to her. So great speaking with you again. We'll be speaking again soon, and have a great day. And
Okay.
hope you guys at home, enjoy this episode, and we hope to see you next week. Sue,
Okay, thank you, Angel. It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
thank you
All
so
right.
much. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye,
Have a
Sue.
great day. Bye.